atmosphere.
Oh, sorry, you're gonna have to start that whole compliment again. I just pushed record. Sorry about that.
Why don't I calligraphy for you?
Well, yeah, I love having students like Joanne and other people that are just want to have a good time and know that you can do both. You can learn and laugh. And I think, in fact, that it actually helps us to retain information better. And so, yeah, it looks like people are tuning in. We've got about 30 people, 28 people signed in already. And I'm just going to remind everybody that I've got you guys muted automatically when you come in, because we could have a pretty big number. I mean, we already have a pretty big number of people. Everybody's welcome. And I would love to hear comments, questions, compliments, especially as we go forward. You have two options there. If you would like to unmute yourself temporarily, that is okay, but I would prefer that you keep it muted just for background noise and talking over each other. The other really great option is in the chat. You'll see the little word bubble down at the bottom. If you just want to tap that, you'll open chat, it will appear on your screen, and you can just type in any questions, comments, anything you want into there. Maybe say where you're located, whether or not you've taken a class from me, maybe why you've joined this demo, anything you'd like into there. If it's a question or anything like that, my lovely mother is joining us. I believe she's on there.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there she is. Her name's Lori.
We have a couple messages.
Oh, great.
Diana Strom wrote, hi, Trieste. I'm not sure how it's pronounced.
Yes,
So glad you can enjoy the class with me. And Claire Maisonneuve, don't know how to pronounce that either, but this is from Claire. Hi, everyone. I just logged in from Spruce Grove, Alberta, Canada. This is my first time with Michael and looking forward to it very much.
All right. Well, great. Thank you. And so, yeah, my mom will be able to read the comments or whatever else if you'd like. Otherwise, I think we should go ahead and get started. I'm going to do a quick test, make sure. Great. All right. So there's the camera. I'm going to situate that, and I'll show you the two pictures I'm going to be starting from. Take a quick sip of my coffee as I head over. All right. So let's get this here and here. I kind of will put it at a bit of an angle so that I'm not blocking it as much as possible. Great, we'll just lower it just a touch here. And what I've got up on here is a birch panel. And I put one little extra layer of gesso on there just because I like a tiny bit of texture, not very much. And in my teaching, you can ignore these colors on the left side here. These are colors I cleaned up from the class I just finished up. I teach generally what's considered a split primary palette, meaning that I use the primary colors and I use two yellows. This is a Hansa yellow light. It could easily be a cadmium yellow light. An Indian yellow, which is a very warm, transparent yellow. This is quinacridone red. Often I would have a cadmium red light up here, but I've not been using it as much lately. Ultramarine blue and a manganese blue hue. If you're curious about those colors or my suggested supply list, you can go to my website, michaelorwick.com, and under the class information, workshop information, there is the whole list is there, including brushes and panels and everything else. Let's see if we can straighten that out just a touch more. There we go. Little. Typically, I actually I do my mixing on a big, huge palette that's just below where we're looking here. It's a converted workbench with a piece of glass attached to it. But when I'm teaching, I've set it up, my easel up, a little bouncy there, sorry. my easel up so that I can put a palette right beside the painting.
That's what this picture means.
All right, please.
Over here.
And a palette here that I can mix, and you can see my painting. And then my references.
After you.
Sorry, I'll go see if I can remute everything.
Do you mind if I interrupt? Whoever's talking, I can't hear you and you're talking over Michael. So mute is a really good idea. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see if I can mute everybody. It's not giving me that option. So anyways, yeah, please stay muted unless you have a question, comment, compliment, whatever it is, concern, whatever you have. And can you guys hear me okay?
Or a heart attack.
Or a heart attack. So
Okay, Michael, while you're setting up the next one, we have a first timer in from Fairfax, Virginia, named Catherine Packard. And Stephen Wolt said to everyone, hi all, thanks, this is very cool.
I hope it's great. I hope you guys have a really good time. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, it's really neat having this ability to invite 60 of my closest new friends into my studio with me. So this is really cool. Anyways, quickly about the references. This is a marsh scene, very dark. There's a marsh scene near my house, a bird sanctuary, actually. And I love the just simplistic, nice, clean design. I thought for a 1 hour demo, I should try to keep it a touch simpler, but this is too simple, right? This is not very interesting, great big huge sky there. So I decided I would find a more exciting sky. This is from the Oregon coast, another photo I took. And so I'm going to be combining these two references and doing a quick painting demo. This is a 12 by 16 panel. My first thing I always do when painting landscapes is quickly get my horizon line in. That will help me place everything. So I'm going to keep my horizon line pretty low because this painting is going to be much more about the sky, about the clouds. So just put that in there so you can see that basically will help me reference where everything else is going to go. I am using oils, but in my workshops, I do have a number of students who do acrylics. The information translates fairly well, especially when talking about color mixing, using value and design and all of that. Just a little bit of the technical issue as far as, the oil paint staying wet for a lot longer are the differences. I also, every once in a while, have some watercolor and pastel students as well who seem to enjoy the class. Just with the knowledge that I will be doing 90% of my demos in oils. And I'm just gonna give myself kind of my big shapes in my landscape, which is pretty, like I said, pretty basic. This painting is gonna be about the sky. Let's go ahead and just quickly kind of sketch in too. So this will be my ground plane. It's got a little mountain back here, some small trees. And I like these, I love combining references. So I'm not becoming too stuck into anything. I can kind of make it up, have fun, explore, kind of let the painting dictate a little bit of what it wants and where it wants to go. I'm using the quinacridone red as my sketching color. I'm not fixed to that. I'll use all sorts of colors when sketching. But I do like the quinacridone red because I find that as I lay in the other colors on top of it, that it doesn't contaminate the colors as much. You don't get unwanted grays, browns, and kind of what we might consider ugly colors, especially when they're in the wrong place. So the quinacridone red really seems to blend well with all my colors. I'll do my best to kind of get this painting as far as I can within the 1 hour, but no, I might need to come back and finish it up later, and that's fine. But I will hopefully get a good start so that you can really get a feeling for it. All right, I also, when painting in oils, I have a couple things that I like to keep in mind, kind of reminders to myself. They're not, you know, I'm not the only painter that uses these, but when painting in oils, I like to think dark to light, meaning when I paint my darkest colors first and go towards my lighter colors. It's not like either or. I'll go back and forth and you know, bring in more lights over the top here. You'll see as I do that to carve out shapes in a little while. I also like to think thin to thick, meaning my painting will start thinner. I'm not going to just start globbing on paint right away. I want to keep it a little bit on the thin side so that I can continue to add more paint on top. And then, so dark to light, thin to thick, and big to small. So my big important shapes first, those will help describe where those other shapes are going to go. If we draw a really intricate picture, you know, if we're not feeling as secure in our painting skills or whatever else, and we start really with a detailed drawing, I find that we're not painting as much as we're coloring in. And I want to paint. I want to push the paint. I want to get enough paint on there so that I can almost use it in a sculptural way. I'm just kind of putting in this back line of trees, again, reiterating where my horizon line is. Let's get a little some darker action going on, and I'm just going to get my big shapes and just touch of paint thinner just to speed this paint up a little bit.
Michael,
Yes.
Donald Stewart wanted a reminder on what are the colors going down from the titanium white.
What's that?
What are the colors going down from the titanium white?
Oh, down?
Yeah.
So the colors going down are just what I just finished a class. I'll show you really quickly my painting that we just did in my class. I just finished like an hour or two ago.
Oh, wow.
I just did this painting well, I did this as the demo, presenting light and shadow colors. And this palette was, as you imagine, a great big mess of colors. So when I clean it up, I just scrape with my palette knife and keep kind of similar colors together. And they always end up being these beautiful grays and browns. And so those colors are just my cleanup piles, basically. So it's just a nice way to recycle the paint. You often will end up with these really gorgeous colors that you might not think to make right away. So I'll use some of these colors today, probably in the grasses, but all these colors were made with the colors at the top of the palette.
He answered the question.
So yeah, just laying in these shapes, making sure my big shapes kind of make sense to each other and that my sense of perspective feels pretty good. Let's get that darker down towards the bottom as those grasses, well at one point be grasses, I hope. Want to come forward. Dark colors and warm colors oftentimes want to appear to come closer to us, which is great. In fact, as I paint, I'll go down, I'll be graying these colors back a little bit to help push them into space. A funny thing about doing demonstration paintings, which I seem to do quite a few of, is the painting oftentimes starts so ugly that it's almost like I just have to get over that and just trust that you guys understand that when painting fast and when painting like this, or actually all my paintings go like this, they'll start kind of on the kind of just big, ugly block-ins, and just know that trust the process. I'll be teaching the, the process of painting and how we build up our paints. And just knowing that something will slowly evolve. I like to think of painting, the appearance of the painting like a Polaroid picture, how it'll just start to show up and evolve onto our canvas. Let's get some of the darks on those clouds a little bit, just to, again, I'm going to make those grayer, bluer, little even purple. So dark to light, that's kind of what I'm working on, big to small. I've got a little bit of paint thinner in here, not so much that it's dripping, well, it is dripping a little bit, that it's not just running away. And when I'm bringing more paint on top, I don't want it to be super slippery. So it's just a dip, like I just take the very corner of my paintbrush and dip that into the paint thinner and then bring it back in and mix. Keep my shadows fairly thin, again, so that I can place the lighter, thicker paint on top without it lifting up or contaminating too much. Also, please notice how I'm holding my brush, not like a pen. I teach to hold your brush like a conductor. Had a student today who said it's like a magician, like a wand. So I guess that works as well. I like that. So as a reminder, I'll say we're not painters, we are conductors. We're conducting the scene, we're conducting the mood, the feeling, the atmosphere, the whole, all of it. And holding the brush in this way allows me to, right now, like while I'm kind of scrubbing in my underpainting, I can hold it really firm with all my fingers. And as I begin to add thicker and more paint, I will change the grip, or I will begin to soften the stroke a little bit. And by doing that, I can just lift some fingers off. I just push less hard. And you'll see that the brush is constantly turning and spinning in my hands.
Son?
Yeah.
We just had relatives make a comment a little while ago. Pamela Haberlin said, hi, John and Pam are in Silverdale, Washington. We are related to the Lindstrom family.
All right.
Yeah, your grandmother was a Lindstrom.
Very nice. Learn all about the Orwicks today.
Yeah. And Jerry and Winnie Thompson just sent a nice compliment. I'll let you read that later.
Okie doke. Thank you. Appreciate my mom jumping on and helping today to read comments. My mom's actually taken classes in the past from me. Always extra scary to be teaching your mom or anybody you know really well, but I think she had a good time. So if I can teach my mom how to paint a little bit, then probably teach anybody, right? Again, just blocking in my big shapes. Got a lot of purple going on in those clouds, so I'm going to bring in a little more bluish color so that I've got cool colors in the clouds, warm colors, and I'm really going to play up some of the backlit warmth that'll be showing through at the end. Actually reminds me of a great big, huge ocean painting that I did recently. These clouds. Not sure if they're taken, the photo was taken on the same day as that, as those sky. So I'm just looking dark, light areas. I'm looking warm and cool. I'm looking bluer, purpler, pinker. In my classes, I do a combination of demos as well as some paint along. Some students really enjoy that. I always, though, say, you know, bring in your references, paint whatever it is that makes you excited. We can learn and make beautiful work that lights us up and makes us excited at the same time. So, you know, I will provide references for students who would like, but I also very much urge you to paint whatever it is. If you have photos from your trip that you would really like to capture. The one thing I do not suggest, or I suggest against, is family portraits. Not in my classes. That is just a little too much stress. We want to be free to experiment and to play and have a good time. And when we have to make, you know, a family portrait that we're thinking we might give as a gift, I find that stresses people out a lot. And I understand why that would. So that's the only thing I just kind of urge people not to do, but I still have students who insist that that's what they want to paint. So, all right, let's go for it. Let's try. Sometimes a little stress and a little pressure can be good for us. It's funny, right before I was turning on the camera, I was thinking, oh man, I'm nervous. You know, I don't know how many people are going to show up. You know, it's an hour is not very long to do a painting. And then you remind yourself that the feeling of stress, the nervousness, the fear is the same almost exact physiological feeling as excitement. So then quickly I just go, okay, no, I'm excited. I get to meet a bunch of people. I get to introduce myself to a bunch of new people, hopefully excite some people into wanting to join me in classes and other things going forward. So hopefully you're not sensing any fear, but instead you're sensing excitement. I'm thrilled that you guys are all here. It means a lot to me that you're taking some time out of your day to join me. And again, welcome to my studio. When COVID first started, because I've been teaching in person for years at a number of different spots. And when COVID first struck, I was so anti painting over Zoom. I just didn't understand how it could work, why people would want to do it. And then I finally, you know, when the year 2 of COVID, you're just like, okay, I don't know how long this is going to last. Nobody does. I took the plunge, and let me tell you, I love it. I love teaching out of my studio. I love having, you know, my paintings here that I can bring out, my books, all my supplies. It is just such a nice thing to have it here. The other great thing about all the classes on Zoom is I've got people all over the place. I've got, you know, people in Florida. I've got people in different countries. We've got people from Canada joining us. I had a lady from Haiti in one of my classes, just you know, you couldn't do that in your workshops or in person. So teaching on Zoom has benefits. The other really great benefit is that the classes are recorded. So if you're not able to attend live for whatever reason, something pops up in your life or whatever else, not feeling well, the classes are recorded and you can watch them at your leisure. And a number of my students really like attending live, listening in, taking notes, watching, asking questions during that time. And then when they go back to do the assignment, the homework, or whatever it is they're working on, they will put it back on, watch it again, getting that, you know, picking up on the things maybe they missed. And it's like you're able to do, and you can paint with me right alongside. And it's really nice too, because you can fast forward through the parts that you don't need to see again, and you can pause it. You can go back and say, what was it that Mike just said? So there's so many neat benefits that I've found from teaching over Zoom. All right, so I've got my big shapes here kind of established. I think I'll just kind of very softly brush out some of this cloud information. Oh, wow, that's a very wet paintbrush. Make sure it's dry, get my paint thinner out of there. I was cleaning the brushes after the last class. Just gonna kind of soften these down a little bit so that as I bring in the background colors, and then I will be going back across the tops of these clouds and adding some highlights and glowy areas of the clouds here in just a little bit. So anyways, big dark cloud. We're going to come back in. Remember, we're going from dark to light. We're going to come back in a little while and lighten those up. But that density, that darkness is going to add to the feeling of these big clouds, kind of heavy.
That's cool. That big. Okay. Winnie Thompson has a comment. He says, I like to start with the darkest dark and the lightest light. That helps me keep the remaining values in between the two. And Steve Neville, I'm sorry, I'm butchering the poor name, says, I jumped in a couple minutes late. I didn't hear the basic palette colors. Sorry, I heard titanium white and quin, but didn't hear the others.
Red.
Can anyone throw them into the chat? Thank you.
Yeah, quinacridone red, for those of you who are taking notes, is spelled Quinacridone. It's an interesting color. It would be closest to an alizarin crimson for those of you who have been painting in the past or have colors already. The reason I choose it over quinacridone is that it can get really warm, whereas quinacridone will just get kind of muddy if you try to overly warm it because it's leaning towards blues and purples. The quinacridone is just very versatile. I can do way more with it than I could with my alizarin. So there we go, just kind of soften things down. Now I'm going to quickly make up some of the other, so remember, big to small, dark to light. And yes, great comment on the lightest lights. I will be having the sun setting kind of beneath these clouds and reflecting down into the water. So yeah, I could definitely do that, but it's almost going to be about the same lightness as the canvas. So I will put that in soon. But yeah, that's a great comment and a really good idea. That helps you.
Gwen Slattery would like to know what kind of paint thinner you use.
I use Gamblin's Gamsol. Anything else really makes a little small. My studio is not too little, but can really add a lot of smell and fumes. The Gamsol is nice and fairly pure. It's fairly gentle solvent. So that's the one I go to all the time. In fact, I just had to get rid of some other solvents that I had because of the smell. I was trying to use them up, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. So I'm just gonna make some quick light sky colors that I'm gonna put behind the cloud. It's gonna start warm down towards the horizon and then the reflections in the water. And then it's gonna get cooler, bluer, grayer as it goes up. I love Indian yellow. It's kind of a magical and strange color. It actually changes colors as it mixes. So there's a little bit of a learning curve to it for a lot of people. But it really is so warm and so transparent. It's just a beautiful, very versatile color. Let's mix up a batch of gray. I'll just grab some of these colors that I used are cleaned from earlier, which again, all the colors on the left side were from earlier class using these exact same colors. And the gentleman who asked about the colors I'm using, it is titanium white. This is a Hansa yellow, but it could be a cadmium yellow light, Indian yellow, quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue hue, which is a quinacridone blue derivative. Quinacridone blue. It is a phthalo blue derivative. Phthalo blue is wonderful if you can control it. It seems to get out of hand and kind of make everything toxic and really, really, really bright. So I don't use it too much. I found that the phthalo blue is kind of a muted version that still does a lot of the things I want the phthalo blue to do without exploding and making everything crazy on my canvas. All right, so I've got kind of a transitionary blues and grays here that I'm going to put going down in the sky, and then my warms that are going to be going up in the sky. So I'll go ahead and get those in. Let me just grab a clean brush as they transfer over from the darks to the lights. Let's get our colors closest to the horizon. They're going to be redder and warmer as they go towards the horizon here, right above my mountains. So it's pretty dark. I'm going to go ahead and lighten that up a little. Touch more paint thinner. The paints have been out for a couple days, so they're starting to get a little bit stickier, which I sometimes like. But when I'm trying to cover big areas, it can get a little bit, well, just a little bit of paint thinner will bring them right back in. You'll see in certain areas, I'll kind of paint up to the edge, leaving a little bit, and I'll come back in when I'm getting to my finesse stage of the painting and kind of paint up to the edges a little more.
Son, is that last blue that you use the blue phthalo or the manganese?
So I don't have phthalo on here. It's just too much. So the manganese is a phthalo derivative, meaning that it's made from phthalo, but it's been neutralized down, or I don't know if neutralized, but kind of brought back under control a little bit. In a class last week, I kind of made the comment that phthalo blue is like having a pet wolf, that you just never quite sure when it's going to bite you. You know, it's got potential to be beautiful and do amazing things, but it sure has the potential to come back and bite you in the butt when you're not wanting it. I'm going to bring my sky colors down as well. Make sure I remember to get those colors into the reflection. All right, and I got to kind of keep a half an eye on the clock. It's amazing how when you're waiting for a doctor, an hour can be forever, but when you're painting, boy, does it fly by. Just adding a little bit of a warm kind of a reddish along the edges here. That'll allow me to kind of get up and paint against those colors a little bit. And then I'm going to come back over the tops of those passages with some lighter paint.
Linda Smith would like to know, do you keep your oils in a freezer or in the freezer?
I do. Yeah, here is, I put out new paint recently, but here is my acrylic painting palette that I keep my colors in. And if I can open it, here's all the colors I've got saved in there. But because I wanted to do a demo, I thought I should start. These are all the grays that I've cleaned up off my palette, and I'll use those in paintings as I progress. But I thought, you know, for a demo, I should probably put out new clean colors so that you can understand the process and, that I'm going through to create what you're seeing. Great question. I do put it in the freezer. I will at least every night clean it up and get it into that Tupperware bin. Just to get some of the, you know, keep it a little less air getting on it so it dries a little slower. I have heard that putting it in the freezer does do some interesting things to the paint, but I have never really noticed that. They thaw out really quickly. Within a matter of minutes, it seems like, when I get back into the studio each morning. I'll just kind of grab my coffee, grab my paints, and just come upstairs. I'm pretty lucky. My studio is just the upstairs of my house. My daughter and I share this space. Also lucky to have a 17-year-old daughter that's very creative and artistic, and generally a really fun studio mate to have when she joins me. You know, she is 17, so a lot of the time she has her headphones on, but I'll take what I can get.
I have a question, Michael.
Please.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud.
Oh, hi, it's Heather. So are there any rules to reflections and the value? If your value in the sky is a certain value, does it reflect the same value in the water, or is it lighter? And does the temperature change in the reflection? Is there a rule for that, or?
What's that?
Is there a rule for that in general when you're doing reflections in water?
Yeah, you know, if you've been in any of my classes, I very strongly try to not use the word rule when it comes to painting, but I'll say guidelines or suggestions or things that might help. Because I mean, why be an artist if you're not a rule breaker? And you know, there are, of course, teachers will say, you know the rules so you can break them, which I totally get and understand and believe. But yes, the reflections in water as a general guideline are going to be, and if anybody's taking notes, let me know if this makes sense. The reflections in the water will be lighter. The darks will be a little bit lighter than the darks that they're reflecting, and the lights will be a little bit darker. So the darks will be a little bit lighter and the lights will be a little bit darker. I often, and it really depends too, like still water like this is just basically a giant pond where geese and birds can chill out on their way from Canada to California or whatever they're doing. Still water will reflect much clearer, of course. Any ripples in the water is going to disrupt. Also, the angle of the sun greatly has a huge effect on the way that the reflection appears to us. Hopefully, I'm doing an okay job of painting and talking. A little bit strange sometimes, but did that make sense? Yeah, so lights get darker just a little bit and darks get lighter.
Yes, that does. Thank you. Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, and then as far as temperature or any of those things, it really has to do with the ambient effects that are going on in the time of day and, you know, the weather, all the different things where the light is striking objects. So basically, you know, if you have a good reference, that can really help. But if you don't, then you just kind of, you know, put it in there. Does it feel good? Does that feel right? If not, why not? And then try to change it. So one of the biggest things, and hopefully this doesn't scare anybody when I say it, but one of the biggest things I think about as an art teacher, as a painting instructor, is not teaching you any sort of formulas or rules. I will give you a lot of guidelines, a lot of hints, a lot of suggestions and things that maybe have helped me overcome different painterly obstacles. But what I want you to do is to learn how to ask better questions of your painting. You know, as you observe it, it's great to go to critiques and to talk with other painters. But the key really in the long run is to be able to critique your own work. Just scrubbing in big areas of color. I'll come back in and kind of blend those closer together so I don't have these big stripes of color going across.
It's beautiful.
Isn't that nice? I love how these these colors are really grayed down. If you let your eye skim across and see how the blue can be versus how grayed down, that is a huge part that I love exploring and sharing with people. Is how do you create the illusion, the idea, the feeling of glow? I think that would probably, if we took a little consensus of those of you who know my work from before this, of why they're attracted to my work, or you know what it is, I think most often one of the words that comes up is glow. Also atmosphere. I really love trying to capture atmosphere, feeling and narrative. I think that's something that's missing in so much landscape painting. I come from an illustration background, and I really think that that landscapes have such an amazing ability to convey narrative when we let them. It gives us, you know, the time of day, it gives us the weather, it gives us the mood, so much. And then you can use all the different elements like trees and clouds, and you know, you can tell like a somber landscape or a happy landscape. They can just, there's just so much they can do. And so constantly thinking about that, how can I bring in emotion and connection and a story into my landscapes? All right, we're gonna go ahead and soften those transitions just a touch. This is just kind of a quick way of doing it, just kind of bringing in a soft, sort of clean brush. It's not very clean, evidently. I'm seeing quite a bit of paint, but I think that's going to work because we're not dealing with super brights in the background of the sky. It's actually kind of grayed down colors. All right, we're about to the fun part. This is the part where the Polaroid picture starts to reveal some of what I'm after. I'll also come down and neutralize this purple. As I've got it covered now, I can begin to analyze the color relationships a little bit more, and I can just kind of go, you know what, this purple is a little bit much. It's a little bit too purple. I think if I come back in and gray down areas of that, it'll make the areas of purple a little more special. So a lot of times, if you want to have something special in your painting, say the sun will be peeking down here, I've got to make other areas less important. If you think of an orchestra, when somebody's doing their solo, right, you need to be backed off, or you have one instrument that's really coming forward and having its moment. If everybody's always playing full tilt all the time, it's just a cacophony and nothing is special. I also like to call it the prima donna, right? So who's the prima donna in this painting? Who's the subject? Who is this painting about? Okay, let's figure that out. It's going to be about the sun setting and reflecting down here. If that's the case, how do I make everybody else fall in line and make her look her best? Right?
Michael,
Yeah.
Joanne Slattery sees you as the prima donna here. She wrote, Michael Orwick has a way to communicate narrative and landscapes, atmosphere, oceans, feeling painterliness. He's genius at painting.
Oh, okay. Joanne Slattery so far gets the gold star for today. Thank you, Joanne. It's nice to have a
Thank you, Michael.
poet in the midst. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, Joanne was in a class workshop I taught out at the Oregon coast. Oh boy, what was it? 100 years ago now, Joanne? Jeez.
Yeah, probably
Oh,
like 200.
200 years
I
ago.
tried to get back, but COVID is like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully our world is gonna open back up and we'll all get to paint together in person. But in the meanwhile,
that was in the day when I was doing pastels. Now I'm doing oils. Thank
oh,
you,
good.
Michael.
Now I will, yeah, great.
Yeah. Well, now you can teach me more.
Yeah, exactly right.
Or now I'll pay attention more. Anyway, I'm going to mute myself now.
All right, well, thank you for the
Michael.
words. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate it more.
So I'm putting on the kind of the rim lighting. The light's going to be coming from behind these clouds, kind of enveloping the sides of them. It's also going to be kind of coming up underneath them. So getting into this kind of beautiful rim light. That's a little strong there. This beautiful rim light and kind of opportunity to make the clouds a little more dynamic, a little more exciting. And see, I'm just kind of trying to figure out like which value area I'm in and keeping the colors within those values so that they're staying within their family. Basically, we talk about a light family and a shadow family. Both are really important. I think too many painters neglect the shadows, and there's magic in the shadows when we allow it to happen. There's so much color that can show up in the shadows when we look for it and when we allow for it. And it just hurts my feelings when I see paintings where the shadows are just dark darks and there's no thought put into them besides that they're there to let the colors do their thing, the lights. And so as we look to the shadows within our different areas, we can look and find the delicate, beautiful colors as long as we keep them within that shadow family, meaning dark enough or cool enough or whatever element that we're looking at. They really can, you'll just see so much. One of my favorite things is having students who, have maybe been painting for a little while, but take my class and then basically say, I'm seeing differently. I see things deeper. I'm asking more questions of the colors, values, temperatures that I'm seeing. I always joke that makes driving dangerous. You got to make sure you're paying attention to the road, but all of you guys are probably artists and know how difficult it can be when you see something beautiful as you're driving down the highway, zooming by. All right. Go ahead and bring this. All right, I'm going to brush these trees up a little bit so that they've got kind of a white little area around them. I'm going to knock those up and over so they're in front of these clouds, not just sitting right beneath them. They're just kind of scrubby trees out here at the wetlands. Just take my brush and just kind of scrub in there, letting that warm light that's coming from behind them kind of come forward and show up in them a little bit. Isn't that nice? That little bit of glow coming through. You can tell they're a little more transparent. You know, there's a bunch of branches there, but they're not so much that they're completely blocking the sky. So I let that warmth come through so that they're a little bit, not quite as dark, and they're definitely warmer than the area down below where the trees are catching less of the light. All right, I told you I would be cooling down this passage back here. So this bottom plane is the closest, right? These are the grasses that we'd be standing on. Then we've got the little bit of water. And then we've got this area here, which is lower on the horizon line coming forward. And then this band of darkness back here is going the furthest back. So I'm going to want to push that back a little bit. So I'm going to get a little bit of a gray blue. I could also even hint at a little bit of fog back there just to help push it back. Cool it down, give us, right, in that whole narrative, we're still just creating a sense of space, a sense of where we are. Isn't that nice? That little bit of cool gray back there just helps to kind of push that back. I'm going to bring also some of that kind of into the tops here, giving a little bit of a hint of texture on the tops. Maybe I'll bring in some of these beautiful gray browns and greens that I have from cleaning my palette a little bit earlier, and just kind of let that do a little bit of the work for me. As I come down further, I'll probably have to kind of possibly darken some of that up a little bit. We'll see. I love the poetry of painting, the whole idea of less is more sometimes. You don't need to overly describe. I can just hint at things. And that's a lot of the fun is by hinting at things, just enough detail, implied detail. I'm inviting the viewers in to help me fill in some of these spaces. And I find that people's brains really react well when you invite them into finishing. You know, there's nothing wrong with a photographic painting, but it's not for me. It's not what I'm attracted to. I'm attracted to the poetry. What's the most you can say with the least or the most significant?
Winnie asked, would you use a gray green in the background?
It is kind of a gray green. That's a good question, Winnie. It's kind of some of the bluey gray that I grabbed from the sky, and then I went ahead and mixed a little bit of the green. It could be, you know, depending on what kind of fog, and it's backlit a little bit, so it can definitely change, but it's reading pretty purple as I look over at the monitor. I'm going to do a little bit of reflection. Hopefully that was a good answer and got you what you want. I'm bringing down a little bit of these reflections of the trees from above down into the water, just a touch. This tree I just added, let's give him a little bit of a reflection. All right, I'm going to come forward now into this area. And what I'm trying to do is really just cover everything as much as possible. I've only got really about 8-10 minutes left. We'll probably go a little long. If you need to leave, I totally understand. We'll miss you. But if you want to stay until the painting, I'll get it as close to done as I feel is right. We'll just stay a couple more minutes. I think I can get pretty far. So right now I'm just scruffing up this edge a little bit, adding a little bit of warmth, a little bit of dark, and I'm just trying to make it organic. Like this isn't a mowed lawn down here at the edge of this creek. This is grasses, you know, places that geese and herons want to hang out and hunt and raise their young. You know, it's nice and protected. It's got that grass coming through to build their nests from and to hide from predators. It's funny, you know, sometimes I totally remind myself of Bob Ross growing up watching him, you know, and we're world building, right? You know, I don't want to say happy little clouds and happy little trees like him, but I really can remember him saying, you know, we'll do this and now we'll add this and this happens. And it really is, there's this magic connection you can get with your images when you allow for it. And it's just, I love it. I love it. I love it. Feel so lucky that I get to paint each and every day, at least on the weekdays. Come up here in the morning with my coffee and my frozen paints and just start world building. Start trying to create hopefully a little bit of poetry, bring a little bit of hopefully beauty into the world that wasn't there before, a little more, or to try to remind people of the beauty that's in the world. It's really important to me. I think that, you know, as we all go about our lives, it's really easy to, that proverbial stop and smell the roses, to forget. And I think it's the artist's responsibility to remind people of those things. All right, I'm just gonna quickly, I'm gonna grab a crazy brush. So here's a little behind the scenes trick. See this brush? It started off as one of these nice brushes. And then when it got all worn out, I just went ahead and chopped it to pieces. It's just crazy. So I don't really throw away very many brushes. I just, they just take on a new function. So I'm going to use that to create just a hint of texture really quickly. It's just kind of a shortcut way I can add a little bit of texture into my painting. So I'm just going to bring in some grasses into the foreground. So this is some of the warm that's actually catching some of that light as it's setting there. And remember, I will have a setting sun back there. Yeah, we all have different things that excite us. You know, for me, it's always been marshes and atmosphere and different things like that. I loved catching frogs and salamanders and turtles and things as a kid. And I'm always just been attracted to that. But no matter what it is, not, if you don't want to paint, you know, marshes and bird sanctuaries, that's totally fine. Bring in whatever it is you want to paint, whatever excites you, whatever lights you up, whatever beauty it is you want to share with others. And all these things that I've been talking about as I build up this painting, the dark to light, the thin to thick, the big to small, different ways to hold our brushes, different tools, different colors, how to mix colors, how to keep our value families together. All of that works no matter what subject it is that lights you up.
Okay, son.
Yep.
Michelle Fritzler asked if you could go ahead and zoom in so we could see the brush strokes in the dark foreground at the end of class.
Sure. I'm gonna
Yeah, that
there.
shows it.
Let's get that over here. So I'm just kind of gonna hint at a little bit of a direction. I got this so far, it's all pretty dark. I'm just gonna get a little bit of light on top and give a little bit of a sense of motion down here. Maybe hint at maybe a path that you could push away the grasses a little bit if you wanted to get over there. And get closer to the water. Maybe you want to giving the viewer a way into the painting, inviting them to be a part of it. So you can see it's kind of scrubby, it's kind of messy, but that's the kind of grasses that I'm painting here. Nobody's out there taking care of this place. They want the nature to be natural out here.
Not pretty.
They do paintings of golf courses and vineyards and stuff as well. And it's kind of fun to go back and forth between the two, the really natural beauty and the more man-made, man-designed things. I'm gonna let a cat in, so it'll be quiet here. All right, so I've got quite a bit of design here. Maybe I could add a tiny bit of cool blue green as well, just to kind of help differentiate so it's not all just the same. I'll just kind of poke in a little bit of this blue green, which would be nice. Play against, sorry, cat needs love evidently. All right, there we go. Some texture on the grass. I'm going to zoom back out so we can see the rest. I'm going to add the brightest bright, thank you, and a little more light into the clouds. Then I'm going to diffuse some of the edges in the clouds, soften, and I want to bring in a little more gray, but all that should take not long. So I'm going to bring in some almost white. It's not white, it's got yellow mixed in with it, but it's really light. I'm also going to paint it thicker, leaving just a nice dab of paint right there. Bam. And let's give that a reflection just directly underneath. That being the case with my sun right there, I'm going to go ahead and warm up the area of the mountain right in front of it. Let's bring in some warmth that's sitting on top of those mountains. Hopefully you guys can see that. Might be pretty small on the monitors, but hopefully you're able to see. And I'm just going to add a little bit of warmth back here and back here as well. Just little hints of glimmer. Let's zoom in so we can see that. So just kind of created a little bit of a warmth on top of the hill and put the sun in there. All right, let's get back to the clouds. And I'm going to quickly give them a brushing out in certain areas. With clouds, I like them to feel soft, right? I like my ground to feel firm. I like my rocks to feel like rocks, my wispy trees to feel like wispy trees, and my clouds to feel like clouds. So that often means that I need lost and found edges. I can't have all of the clouds treated the same. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a little bit of this bluey gray that I've got up in my sky. And I'm just going to go ahead and kind of softly bring that into areas of the clouds, softening those edges. You can see how by softening that, it just takes and makes it so it's not, my eye doesn't want to go up there as much. I'm trying to bring the eye back into this area. My prima donna down here singing at the top of her lungs. She wants all the attention, or a lot of it. She wants everything else to be a supporting character, and there to make sure everybody notices her sequin dress and her beautiful colors. See if I can gray down some of those purples. Again, they're just a little distracting. This area is just so big and so purple. I'm gonna just kind of gray down some of it to hopefully, again, bring the viewer back down to the area where I want you, which is down towards the horizon, down at the sunset. All right, we're kind of getting towards the end. I would love to hear any questions or comments, concerns, whatever it is, thoughts. I really appreciate you guys coming and
Michael,
spending time. I will also, as soon as I'm done painting here, in just a minute, I will come and sit
Michael,
at the computer and talk to anybody that wants, or hold on one second, please, or about upcoming classes and workshops. Yes, go ahead, please.
okay, Cynthia Eckersley asks, will the intensity of the colors change as they dry?
Yes, a little bit. They will kind of neutralize down a little bit. That's a great question. Yes, they will. And but not much, just a touch. So, you know, I think you're pretty safe when you're painting to kind of say, well, this is how they're going to end. Is that what I want? Acrylics seem to go the colors seem to change a lot more when they dry. And the great thing about oils and different things is there's the glaze varnishing at the end after the painting's dry before you go sell it in the gallery or whatever else, give it to your client, varnish it, the colors just come right back. It's pretty amazing. It's like watching a sleeping painting come back to life. So yeah, there's also something I'll do during some paintings, especially if I've let the painting sit for a while. It's something called oiling out, where you'll just kind of wet the surface, just the touch, just the surface itself, not the paintings. And it makes the colors appear as if they did when they were wet. And that way, when you're putting in more color on top, you can better match the colors to each other.
Son?
Yep.
The couple comments or questions. Do you use a glaze after it's dry?
Glaze to change the color.
No, just after it's dry.
I'll varnish it after it's dry, but yeah, I use glazing a lot in my paintings to change colors and different things. If I want some paintings, I actually really plan for it, that glazing will be a part of the process. Other ones, it's maybe because the colors were too vibrant, much more vibrant than I had intended, you know, or, you know, under different lighting situations, your painting can look a bit different. And so, yeah, there's a number of times I glaze. I think I'm one of the few instructors that teaches about the use of transparent versus opaque paint. Most all of my colors are transparent or semi-transparent, and I use glazing a lot. And for anybody that's just curious, what does glazing even mean? Glazing is just the putting on a very thin, transparent coat of color, and it's like, imagine putting a sheet of colored glass over the top of your painting, how it's going to affect, like when you put on rose colored glasses, right? And the whole world takes on a slightly different hue. We can do some of those same effects, or filters on a camera. We can do a lot of those same effects in painting. All right, I think I've kind of muted down most of the colors that I want to mute in the sky. Let's get in a couple more highlights. Bring back some of that rim lighting a little bit. And I will come and sit down and talk with you guys. I will go ahead and record this. If you guys would like to see it again or share it with anybody, especially if you have any friends or family that you think might be interested in learning more about me or from me, feel free to share it. I'll be posting it on YouTube, and I'll send you guys the link once it's up. It'll probably be sometime tomorrow. It takes a little while to get it from Zoom to my computer, and then from my computer to YouTube. So tiny bit of patience, and I will get you your very own link so that you can watch the video or share the video. Is there any more questions at all before I'm going to separate these clouds. I want two lines of clouds. I want some clouds really far back there. So I'm going to go ahead and create a little band sky there.
Wow.
Let's let a little more light poke through back here. And a little more here, maybe. And then, yeah, anything glaring? I haven't even stepped back once. Normally I'm doing a little bit of a dance when I'm painting, stepping away, observing, seeing what's working, what's not. But when I'm painting for only an hour, I'm really hugging this canvas. I'm right up on it. So maybe you guys are seeing things a little differently than I am. So if you see anything glaring that you think I need to change before I finished, otherwise, I think I'm liking where this painting's going.
Yeah.
I've had a great time with you guys. And
Mary Ann asks, or no, Claire says, what kind of varnish do you use?
sure, let me grab it. See, that's one of the great things about painting out of the studio. I've got all my stuff here. I can just say, ta-da! It's Gamvar Picture Varnish by Gamblin. You'll find a lot of my products that I use are Gamblin products. They are local here in Portland, and I'm friends with people that work there or have worked there and even helped come up with some of these products. So, I've been a Gamblin artist, meaning help represent them in the past, and they're a company I really like. Don't want to advertise them too much, but I really like them. They're great. If you ever have questions about their products, just call them up. They're amazing. They'll talk to you. They'll answer your questions. And I really like that because, you know, students are always asking questions I've never even thought of. And I'm like, I don't know. Give Gamblin a call and I can answer that question the next time we meet. I love that. I love it. I could just keep adding, and I will keep adding forever, but because we're on a, let's add a little bit of cloud coming off here, picking up a little bit of the light. You also see that I'm using a shop brush. These are just chip brushes from your local hardware store. I use all sorts of tools. I didn't in this one use any of my Q-tips, but I've got my Q-tips handy there. I'll use those often, just come in and carve out little details where I need to, you know, I'm having a hard time applying paint, but didn't really need it in this case. Lots and lots of tools. I have old Amazon card here. If I had hard edges, I could use just like a palette knife to kind of create edges. And anyways, it's fun seeing. I've also got chopsticks in here. I got all sorts of things that have just become mark making tools over the years in my arsenal. Great. I'm going to go ahead and change of the camera so that you guys can see it a little better, I hope. Sorry about
Winnie asks, is it okay to use Galkid, or how is that pronounced? Galkid light as a final coat?
Yeah, I believe do it very, very, very thinly. You would wipe it on and then let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes and then wipe it back off. And you'll have enough there. It works like a varnish in that it creates that shine that you were after. The only problem with it is it's not removable. The great thing about the Gamvar varnish from Gamblin is that it's easy to remove it. So if I change my mind, oh, that painting wasn't actually done, which happens more than I like to admit, I can go back in and remove it just with a little bit of their Gamsol paint thinner, and get right back to painting. Trying to, guess maybe if I just push it back just a touch, just a touch.
Do you ever use ground in your paintings?
What do they mean by ground? I'm afraid I might need
Cynthia, do you want to unmute and ask what you tell what
It's
you
like,
mean?
I know it comes in a can and I've seen it for sale, but I've never
Do you mean the powder or the paint?
It's like a powder or something that comes in a can. It's just called ground, I think. It's,
This is called whitening calcium carbonate, and I will mix that in sometimes. It just makes my paint a little like I can paint over the top. So let's say I really dislike this painting and just wanted to paint another painting over it, but it's already dry, because right now I could just wipe it off or use paint thinner. But if it was dry, I would just basically knock down all the edges, and then I could use a ground to cover it. Because it's an oil painting, I can no longer put gesso on top of it, right? You cannot put acrylics on top of oils, but you can put oils on top of acrylics, which I'm
right.
doing more and more of. But a ground, if I'm understanding correctly, is either what you would put underneath the painting to paint on top of, like gesso.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think so.
So I don't
Yeah.
love oil ground. It's a little slipperier than I like.
Okay.
And because I love the translucency of color, a lot of times I'll paint and remove the colors, and it'll create this kind of after effect, this kind of glow will remain.
Right.
So yeah, I prefer an acrylic gesso.
Okay.
But that's just, you'll develop that taste, or whatever it is, your working style with the different tools as you paint more and more and more. I mean,
Well, I've never used ground in a painting, but I've seen someone do it, I think, but I was just curious because I've seen it for sale and
yeah,
I've
I'm
never
not
used it
positive
myself.
that
So
I know exactly what you might mean
I
by
think
it.
it comes in like fine, medium, different.
Yeah, it may be like adding grit to it.
Yes, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, so that's what the carbonate does.
Okay.
Everybody got their fill of the picture? You want to come back to me, or should
Thank
I just
you.
leave it there and keep talking?
Okay.
Michael,
Yeah.
Claire asks, how long do you let your paintings dry before varnishing?
As long as I can. The truth is, oils can take months to dry. I paint a little bit thinner than a lot of painters, so my paintings definitely dry. If everybody was really quiet and then 5 hours shut up, you guys could actually hear a fan going in the other studio up here, and that's aiming at 2 paintings that I need to dry pretty quickly because they're commissions, and the client's ready for them. So I just put a fan on them. I've also got fast matte paints, which will dry faster. There's mediums you can use to help speed up the drying time. I don't love using those. But the truth is, with this new form of varnish, you can varnish much, much, much sooner than we used to be able to. It used to literally be told to wait 6 months before varnishing so you didn't lock in any moisture. But the new varnish does allow a little bit of air to continue to flow through the varnish to the paint, and allow that painting to continue to cure for a long period of time. So basically what I would do is I touch it, make sure it's not, really wet. If it's, nothing came up on my finger or my brush, whatever I touch it with, Q-tip, then I would go ahead and touch it a little bit harder, maybe with a paper towel, just in a little area. Usually the lighter colors dry slower, so that's kind of where I'll test it. That sun that I put there peeking beneath the clouds is quite thick. That'll be the slowest drying spot for sure. So that's where I will test. And if it's really dry to the touch with a little bit of a firm pressure, then I feel I am okay to go ahead and varnish it. When varnishing, it's better to put on 2 very, very thin coats than it is to put on 1 thicker coat. Learned that one the hard way a couple times. Oh, and somebody asked about Galkid. Well, yeah, I said about putting Galkid over the top. That works similar. I have used it in the past, but I prefer to just use varnish. Any other questions? I'm sitting at my desk here and I'm going to read what kind of Alkyd to use. I like Galkyd gel, also by Gamblin. I prefer the gel because with just a touch, of effort, the gel can become quite liquidy and move really thin, but it also mixes with paint and retains its body if I want it to. So it's a great in-between medium where it can be very thin and runny, or I can make it thicker and more impasto and add body to the paint while retaining a sense of transparency. Anybody else? If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself now too. We don't need to continue to type. Otherwise, I will thank you all so much for spending this time with me. It was really great to see a lot of you again. It's been too long. I can't believe we're years into this thing. I'm going to change my view so I can see everybody. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And I look forward to both seeing you over Zoom, painting with you that way. And if we can, I really look forward to painting with you guys in person again soon too. We've got in-person workshop coming up at Cole Gallery in a couple months. Our online Zoom class will be on Wednesday afternoons, and that starts next month, just for 4 weeks. That's a quick course where we'll hopefully make some beautiful art, poetry, and create a little more beauty in this world together. So,
Michael,
yeah.
does the chat section, is it preserved?
I don't know. I
Because
will quickly read through it.
Okay, because you had a couple nice compliments, and I thought it was best if you just read those, because we've been able to read them as they go up.
Very loudly, sorry. All right. Anybody else? We're all good?
Thanks, Michael.
Enjoy
It was
your
great.
dinner.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stay in touch, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Mhm.
All right, I'm going to stay on and read these really quickly before they go away, but otherwise, awesome. Wow, a lot of comments. Holy cow. Oh, hey, Nancy. Didn't even see you there as people are going away. Good to see you, Nancy. Thank you, Pamela Haberlin, for joining. It was great. Oh, there you guys are. Hey, hey, good to see you. Oh, I'm afraid you're muted there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah.
That was wonderful.
I'm gonna share
Pleasure.
this
Thank
with her
you.
daughter too, so we'll.
Yeah, I
Thank
look forward
you so
to catching up with you guys and learning more about your family and what they're doing with art and everything else. And yeah, mom and dad are, well, at least Lori's on here, so she can
Yeah,
say hi
that's
as well.
really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah, one of these days we'll get to have a reunion again.
yeah,
Maybe,
exactly.
maybe in our next life, I don't know, but.
Well, thank you. That was
Thank you so
wonderful.
much.
I love that.
Oh, thank you. That really means a lot to me.
I
really
learned a lot. I wish I would have learned that in my junior high class that discouraged me from painting.
see, that's my biggest fear. That's I mean, even gosh, I just want everybody to paint and experience just a touch of the joy
Yeah.
that comes from creation and you know,
Yeah.
making things. And yeah, it helps in so many ways. Even if your paintings aren't turning out the way you absolutely want, just the act of slowing down and appreciating and
Yeah.
looking at the scene a little bit deeper, I think it just helps everything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was taught you didn't do it right.
Right. And there is no right or wrong. There's tools
Yeah.
that we have, you know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
thousands of ways to build a house.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I learned a lot. And I think one of the most simple things was that you go from dark to light. I've never heard that before.
Oh, good. I'm
Yeah.
glad I was able to present that. It really, really helps me.
Yeah.
When I started off, I was doing, more watercolory kind of stuff and all that. And painting I just didn't like painting. I actually just considered myself somebody who was going to draw for my life. And when I got to oils, I joke that it worked well with my dyslexic brain, but that whole painting from dark to light, the reverse of watercolors, really clicked with me really quickly.
Yeah,
And it made so much more sense. And you can even see it in that foreground grasses, right? How
yeah.
those lights in there want to come forward from the dark, shadowy, grassy, flat areas.
Well, yeah, for sure. And that's, yeah, we had a wrong angle on our video at first, and then now seeing it, that's amazing. It's wonderful. Thank you.
My pleasure, you guys. Take care. And
You too.
yeah, hopefully we're all free and out and about and seeing each other again.
Yes,
Great.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Guys, take care. Stay in touch. You still there, Mom?
Michael,
Yep. How's it going?
I really enjoyed this.
Oh, good. Thank you for your help.
Yeah.
That was great.
I don't know, I may have made some mistakes